G'day, Vidabja, and how are you doing? Today's video is about us fitting the front of the Baja kit to our Super Beetle, and I'll talk about the controversial topic about can a Super Beetle be a Baja Bug? What is a Baja Bug? A Baja Bug is a Volkswagen Beetle that has been changed so that it can operate in open desert, sand dunes and beaches. And it was particularly named after the Baja 1000. The Baja 1000 is a race across the Baja Peninsula, and it started in 1962 and was first run with off-road motorcycles to prove the reliability, and particularly Honda set it up. In 1967, Bruce Mayers took his Mayers Manx and raced it in a race, also just to prove how strong the vehicle was and how reliable it could be. This could be seen as the first VW that took part in the Baja 1000. A Beetle was a very good choice for the race because of its rear-mounted air-cooled engine, the flat floor pan, the torsion bar suspension, and in particular it's the front trailing arm suspension, which is where all the contention comes in with a standard Beetle versus a Super Beetle. So this is a beam like that on a standard Beetle. This one's actually from a combi, but they're very similar. So what you have is you have two big steel tubes, and inside you have layers of steel plate that run through, that then twist and give you the torsion. These then come, each side of those layers of steel join onto those trailing arms, which then go down to the hub, and that's able to swing up and down. But if you just have a look at how substantial this whole mechanism is, and then this has two big plates over here and here with 4 bolts that bolt onto the chassis of the Beetle. So as you can see, it's fairly substantial suspension and substantial parts. So as I was saying, inside these tubes are a whole lot of steel plates. I think there are about 9 in each tube that come out into the trailing arms. And how the suspension works is these steel plates are bolted together. There's actually a bolt on that side there. And so they're held in position, and then as that trailing arm moves up, you can see it flexes like that and then releases, flexes like that. That's as that trailing and arm moves up and down. As they move, the harder they push, the more the torsion increases, which the force fights back and tries to return the suspension back down. So it's a very primitive but very good and robust suspension system. So on this Tamiya model, they've actually modeled the suspension very well of a standard Beetle. So there are the 2 beams coming onto the trailing arms, which can move up and down with a shock behind it. So why this is so good is because when a vehicle comes over a jump and lands, it allows the wheel to push back without breaking off. At the same time, the springs are being loaded up, the torsion springs in the tubes are being loaded up and pushing back, which then allows the suspension to come back. Again, because of those beams, it stops the suspension breaking off by coming up or when it's pushed back, snapping off, or being pushed back that way towards the center of the car. So that's why this suspension was so successful in off-road racing. In the late 70s, VW changed front suspension to McPherson strut, which is one of these. And the reason for it is all you need is one of these on each side of the vehicle. So there's far less space used up and it's far lighter. So this is a real modern suspension system which most modern cars use. However, it's not as strong as the old system. The reason it's so good is because the steering is handled by the bearing on the top, which allows the car to steer, and the up and down motion is covered by the spring and the shock, which is all built into a single unit. So this is a McPherson strut which comes down, and you can see the connection at the bottom here to the hub, and then it goes to that crossbar which tightens to the chassis. Also you have this torsion bar at the front which really helps with torsion and is not really strength for suspension. So all the suspension is taken up at the top there with that strengthening to the body. So that's the top of the McPherson strut, and you can see the extra strengthening on each side of the strut, but it's actually part of the body. It's not the floor pan of the Beetle. So if you take a Super Beetle off-roading and you take a jump, when the force hits the hub and the suspension, it cannot swing back and out the way and absorb the shock and the load. So what happens is the top of the McPherson strut tears out from the force pushing the wheel backwards, or the force pushing the wheel up actually pushes the strut up and through the body. So this is why Super Beetles are not considered good off-road racing vehicles. So back to the Baja build, and I bought a standard Beetle Baja kit for two reasons. The Super Beetle Baja kit I think looks a bit ugly, and secondly they are very expensive and I'd have to ship it from the US. So this is the Baja kit for the front, the 4 pieces. It's made up of the bonnet over there, the nose cone, which you cut off the front of the VW apron and fit, and then you have the fender on each side, which basically fits similar to the VW fenders. So you can see the holes already drilled to be fitted, and yeah, so that's the kit that fits to a standard Beetle. So we'll offer it up to our Beetle and see. So we've just placed the Baja hood on top of VW. So if we just lift this, you can see underneath is VW, and I've just put the curtain on, obviously not to scratch it, but it actually fits okay up at the top and around the top of the bonnet. But the problem of a Super is down here. If I can show you, this is actually the bonnet of VW, of the Super, which comes right out to here. Whereas you can actually see that is where the fiberglass is here. So if you have a look, that's the bonnet there. And this is the bonnet of a standard Beetle, the bonnet of a Super Beetle. So there'd be a lot of cutting. We'd probably need to cut up here some sort of V and split it open to try and widen these sides so they would fit. So that's why this kit won't fit onto a Super Beetle. To fit the front nose cone, you have to cut the front of the Beetle. So with a standard Beetle, because of the suspension, that big girder, steel girder going across the front as I've shown before, to cut the front nose cone off doesn't really matter. But on a Super, the actual body structure, the curve gives the front strength, which is needed for the top of the shock towers of the McPherson struts. So I was very nervous about cutting the front of the vehicle because I'd lose all that strength, which would also allow the body of the vehicle to collapse if I ever took it off-road. So while I was thinking about all of this and what to do for the front, I removed the bumper. And from this picture, what you'll notice is that actually the front of the vehicle is fairly curved already and does look like a Baja shape anyway. So I had one of those hold my beer, where's the grinder moments, and I started to trim the front valance just below the bonnet, and then I moved around and started trimming the fenders. And as you can see from these photos, it actually turned out okay, and I think I got quite a good look on a Super Beetle, using the steel front to keep the strength and the steel fenders again to add strength, but it gives you that rounded off-road cut back look of a Baja. So back to the question of, can a Super Beetle be a Baja Bug? And I think the answer is yes. I'm looking for a Baja Bug for street use and for use on the beaches. I'm not going to jump it or race it through a desert. So I believe the fact that I haven't cut up the front should be strong enough, and I plan to put a strut brace across the struts. But getting back to the answer, I think yes. If you don't cut the body to fit a fiberglass nose cone, you're not taking away the strength. However, if you do, you can always reinforce the strut towers to put back that strength. I think also if you're going to use it for street and beaches like a beach buggy, then yes. But if you're going to be jumping it or using it for off-road racing, I would say no. But I wouldn't use a standard Beetle for that either. If I needed a vehicle for that, I'd build a bespoke tubular front with upper and lower control arms, as well as long travel suspension, which will be purpose made for jumping and racing. So please let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. Alright, thanks for watching. Take care and God bless. Thanks again for watching, and be sure to like, share, subscribe, and leave me any comments.